My name is Nelson Virgil. I'm 67 years old, and people that know me would describe me as a little assertive, forthcoming, blunt, friendly. Yeah, very, very, very blunt. I got to the United States in December '84. With a lot of dreams, and to move with somebody I had met 3 years before and has become very helpful and very special to me. And it wasn't until a year later that when I got to the States, we already started seeing the news and hearing the news about this gay cancer. They didn't even know what it was. They thought they had many theories. They didn't know there was a virus. But there was a lot of researchers looking for the cause for this wasting disease. They call it the skinny disease, because people are wasting and having pneumonia, sarcoma, which are spots on the face caused by another virus. And they didn't know what the cause was. They was mostly striking gay men. They thought it was just a gay disease. It wasn't until later that they found out it was a virus, an HIV virus, and they found obviously a way to test for it. Most of us, I said, no, that's not ever going to happen to me, because that only happens to, back then we thought only drug users or people that partying really hard or people are not taking care of themselves. We have so many theories to pacify ourselves, but most people I knew, including my friends, did not want to get tested, because getting tested really didn't bring any benefit, since there were no treatments, nothing to do except get anxiety. But my partner went behind my back and got tested, and obviously told me, he came back and said that he had bad news, that he was HIV positive. And that completely had changed my attitude about getting tested. I went to get tested the day after at a little trailer, because we didn't even have a building for dealing with this disease. So anyways, I went to the trailer at night and got my results. They bring you into a small room, and there was this volunteer that telling me, I have news, you're HIV positive. You're kind of in a haze when you're told that, because part of me was still hoping I wasn't. It was like the worst news a young person, or any person, especially back then, the worst news anybody could get. There's no words to describe it. It's like the whole world ends, and you're shocked. You, like, every single plan that you have is falling in front of your eyes or being destroyed. So it took a while. I went home and obviously had a lot of anxiety and cried a lot that night. Yeah, it was the beginning of a nightmare. It really was a nightmare that I didn't wake up from. Well, my friends were dying. I moved to LA, and in LA was a little different than Houston. LA had more people more into the wellness and health and exercise and fitness and support groups. So I went to support group one night. I was in the closet, double closet, about being gay and HIV positive. And I went to a support group that Marianne Williamson, and she's well known. She's written many books, and she ran for president almost 3-4 times. She was leading this group of HIV positive people that we were all scared shitless. We really were. We thought, who was going to be next? I was terrified to be found out. And the way you're found out is through wasting, like you're losing a lot of weight. I was terrified to lose my job that took me a long time to find. I was terrified to be deported from the United States, because back then they would test you for HIV, and if you're HIV positive, they would deport you. I was terrified about many things that I had to keep a secret, and I was doing really well keeping that secret. I was doing very well at work because it was my escape. And in that, going back to that support group, many people are sitting on the floor, including myself, and everybody was wasting away, very skinny. We were scared. And these two guys walked in, and they were buffed and muscled, and they looked like $1,000,000. They looked healthy. And I was wondering what they were doing in the room. They didn't look like us. During the break, I came to them and says, wow, but you guys are really buffed up and jacked. Yeah, they said, well, we're doing testosterone and nandrolone, and you should too. You're starting to look a little wasted. I was starting to lose weight. And I said, well, how do you get that? That's steroids. I don't want to do steroids. It's bad for you. And testosterone and nandrolone, those products, aren't they like dangerous? I hear they kill your liver. They have a lot of side effects. And Stanley, one of them, told me, well, aren't you gonna die of AIDS anyways? Aren't you gonna waste away? Look at everybody in the room. May as well just do something. We did it, look at us. We may or may not survive, but at least we'll look healthy. So why are you worried about side effects of steroids? You've seen the bodybuilders. And I said, well, how do I start? I was so desperate. And they took me to their place a few blocks away and gave me the first shot of both. And right away, within a few days, I was kind of like I had awakened. I started gaining weight. I ate my appetite went up. My mood and my energy obviously went up. It was just like a miracle, and I started gaining weight again. And at work, somebody came to me that had told me before, a month before, that I was looking a little sick. It really scared me. And then he says, oh my God, Nelson, you look tan and healthy. Are you working out a lot? You look like you just came from a vacation. That's when I knew. I was like, oh, I don't look sick anymore. So that's when my fears completely disappeared. Completely. I was like, oh, this is at least a way so that nobody finds out. I was regaining weight. I gained 35 pounds. And I look better than before I got HIV, I think. We started getting information from different newsletters that low testosterone was very common in people with HIV, men with HIV. Like over 50-60% of us had low testosterone because obviously our bodies were being consumed by our immune activation. And we learned also that the immune systems, the main source of nutrients for the immune system is muscle, is glutamine and all the amino acids in muscle. So muscle really it's like a fridge where the nutrients are, and that's why we're losing all this muscle mass. Then a researcher came and said, if you lose 66% of your lean mass, you die, no matter if you have HIV or cancer. It's cachexia, you just waste away. And to survive, not only in HIV, you need muscle even as you age or if you have cancer. So that's when everything started clicking in my head, that it was not only about looking good or looking so that people would not find out that you're positive, but it's also part of survival to have muscle. So I became completely obsessed with this whole topic. Even though we had no internet, I created a nonprofit called Program for Wellness Restoration, Restoring Your Wellness, with the use of diet, exercise, supplementation, and testosterone, nandrolone. Then we started hearing also about oxandrolone. It's an oral that is also FDA approved. By the way, all these medications are FDA approved, but most people didn't even know that they're legal and FDA approved. Even doctors were afraid of it, prescribing it, but once I found out that you can fax, you can program your fax machine to send as many faxes as you could, I wrote a 4-page summary and found a way to get doctors' fax numbers and fax what we call the power program that I created with the help of another friend of mine, Michael Mooney, to all the doctors doing HIV treatment. And all doctors were freaking out that their patients were dying and wasting. So I faxed these fact sheets, and doctors jumped on it because they didn't care anymore about risks or side effects. They wanted to save their patients and not have to see so many patients die in front of them. So it became a thing. It spread like wildfire. Every HIV doctor, I started getting phone calls from people like about the power program. I told my boss I was HIV positive and I was writing a book, and that I didn't know how long I was going to live. That was in '94, and that I needed to do this before I died. And he told me, he was very upset, but he told me, go home and finish the damn book. So I finished it and started lecturing on my own money and traveling and telling everybody I could. Became kind of a preacher. This was 94, 93, 94. We didn't get medications, good medications, until 97, 98. So it bought us a lot of time, a lot of us. Most people were getting 30, 40 pounds and buying time until the new HIV medications like protease inhibitors came. So that for me was an eye-opener. So Built to Survive became basically the treatment for wasting syndrome in HIV. And many doctors were using it. Most doctors were using it before, obviously, the late 90s or so. Wasting started getting better, but we were still losing lean body mass even with the new medications that came through. Organon was a Nandrolone manufacturer. Savient was a oxandrolone, and they produced it for a while until Organon decided to stop making Nandrolone. The canoate is a full name. And it was very upsetting because most of us were using Nandrolone, and all of a sudden the pharmaceutical company decided to not make it anymore. And that was a shock. We had never experienced the fact that a medication that in HIV were using it successfully had been dropped out of production by a decision of a pharmaceutical company. So I started calling around, and I found out that I didn't even know what compounding pharmacies were. Didn't really cross my mind. And somebody said, well, maybe a compounding pharmacy, Nelson, can make it for you guys. And the internet had already, thank God, came around 94, 95. I was actually starting to use the internet, and that's how I found out about compounding pharmacies that make products, especially products that are no longer available, or products that require a different dose, a different mode of administration, different combinations of ingredients, basically customization. And I was surprised we hadn't heard about this in HIV with all the struggles that we've had. I mean, I was part of the buyers clubs, the Houston buyers clubs. Every city had a buyers club. We're trying to import products. Had we known that compounding was an option, that would have been great. But we found out right then that compounding would actually take care of producing Nandrolone. A lot of people with HIV had no insurance, so they have to find ways to pay out of pocket for testosterone. Compounding was able to provide that. One of the compounding pharmacists back then, APS, said, we'll make it for you guys. So that was the beginning of my relationship with compounding. Compounding, for me, I'm a chemical engineer, so for me it was like the answer to many things, to not only getting access to medications that were dropped by pharma, like Nandrolone, but also getting customized and more affordable testosterone products And I think a lot of people that need help don't even know that compounding is an option. Americans don't know that we are privileged and lucky to have access to the compounding industry and all their products. In my case, I will always be grateful of the compounding industry. I don't know what would have happened without us keeping our lean body mass to not only live healthy and stronger and better, but also to survive. So that's really my main goal with sharing my story. It is a story of struggle, but there is always a silver lining. I'm 67. I'm as healthy as I can be with a chronic illness like HIV and cancer. I've gone through that too. I'm very happy that I was able to keep on fighting despite stigma and lack of access to information. But at the same time, I wonder how many people out there are suffering and going through a rough time, need treatment, and because not only cost but access, lack of access, maybe suffering or even dying without actually trying every single possible solution out there.